All set?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good evening. Welcome to the June 16, 2026 Town of Fishkill Zoning Board of Appeals meeting. I'd like to call the meeting to order with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, tonight we have a public hearing. Let me just read this for you. At 7 p.m. or as soon thereafter as possible, Duchess Manor Restoration and Site Redesign Project. The applicant is seeking a determination from the Zoning Board of Appeals pursuant to Town of Fishkill Town Code Section 150-11, which allows the Zoning Board of Appeals to extend the zoning regulations of the restricted business zoning district into such portion of the lot which lies in the adjoining R2A zoning district within 50 feet of the district boundary. The lands affected by this determination prior to the subdivision abandonment process filed by the applicant with the Dutchess County Clerk's Office on April 17, 2026 are identified as tax map parcel number 5953-00620222, located at 263 Route 9D, consisting of 6.632 acres in the RB zoning district, and tax map parcel number 5953-00603192, located at 14 Cordes Lane, that consists of 5.632 acres in the R2A zoning district. A new tax map parcel number is to be assigned by the Dutchess County Clerk's Office for both tax maps parcels. The Duchess Manor Restoration and Site Redesign Project is the subject of a site development plan, special use permit approval by the Town of Fishkill Planning Board, identified as Planning Board Application PB 24-010. Town of Fishkill Planning Board adopted a negative declaration and issued a certificate of appropriateness for the project on April 9, 2026. Okay, so at this time I'd like to ask the Duchess Manor Restoration and Site Design people if they would like to come up and speak for a minute, and then I will make a motion to have the public hearing open.
Okay, so do you have that motion to open the public hearing?
Yeah. Can I have a motion to open the public hearing? Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the Zoning Board. My name is Helen Mauch, M-A-U-C-H. I'm a partner in the law firm of Minster Mauch, and I represent HHFT in connection with the Duchess Manor Restoration Project. If I may, I would like to keep my comments brief so that you can hear from the public that's here tonight, and I would ask to be able to speak after
That's fine.
the public makes their comments. But just to start things off, I just do want to set the stage a little bit. We seem to have props here tonight and maybe some theater, so let me just set the stage. The historic Duchess Manor property, as you know, has stunning views of the Hudson River, and it was a private catering facility that hosted large weddings and banquets, and is now planned to be restored, thoughtfully redesigned and landscaped, and open to the public to enjoy, connect with nature and each other, alleviate safety hazards from parking on 9D, and serve as a resource for the community. To accommodate the neighbors, the project has been significantly scaled back since it was first proposed to the town. HHFT's request tonight is for a zoning offset, which is authorized under the zoning code in circumstances where there is a lot in two zoning districts and more than 50% of the lot lies in the less restricted district. And while HHFT did not contemplate seeking an offset initially, the reduction in scale of the project over time provided an opportunity to utilize Section 150-11 of the zoning code. Many towns and villages have codes that are similar that contain similar provisions to the one in your zoning code, and courts that have looked at them have applied them to both use and bulk regulations. As we noted in our submission, this board has applied Section 150-11 in a prior ZBA case where the applicant was looking to extend a commercial use into a residential zone. And so with that, those are just my initial comments, and we appreciate your time and look forward to coming back after you hear from the public, unless there's anything you'd like me to address at this time, which I'm happy to do.
I'm sure we'll have some questions, but we'll hear from the public first.
Okay.
And then we'll ask
Thank
you
you.
some questions. And be prepared, there's probably a lot of questions that may need to be answered, okay?
Sure.
Thank you.
That's what we're here for. Thank you.
Okay, before I ask speakers to come up, I have to read these rules for everybody. Speakers are asked to come to the podium and identify themselves so their names may be entered into the record. Tonight we have a stenographer. I ask that when you come to the podium, you give your name and address, and if you could spell your name for the stenographer, I'd appreciate it. Verbal interruptions, shouting, or other outbursts, as well as slanderous or obscene language or signs with the body or face are prohibited. Speakers are limited to one turn at the microphone and podium. Speakers are limited to 3 or 4 minutes at the microphone or podium. I see a lot of faces out there that probably have things to say, so if we can try to keep it short, we'll give you a little bit of a warning at 3 minutes. 4 minutes, I'm going to ask you to please step down. Speakers should provide only new or different information or commentary. Repetitive comments made previously by somebody else or prior meetings are prohibited. Comments are limited to the matters involving the business before the board. In other words, the particular application that is a subject to the public hearing. So we kind of on that one, we need to talk about 150-11 and how you are affected, okay? Yes, we know parking is a big thing, okay, but we have to kind of rein it in a bit, okay, and keep it about 150-11 and how that is going to affect everybody. And the last thing, if a person continues to interrupt after the chair has asked them to stop, they'll be asked to leave and escorted from the meeting room if necessary. So, with that, would anybody like to speak?
Thank you. My name is David Watson. I live at the cottage, 20 The Boulevard, Cold Spring, New York. My wife and I, although we don't live in Fishkill, spent a lot of our time in Fishkill, particularly at Home Depot, having just restored this historic cottage. My experience has been that 9D becomes a nightmare with parking. Also, because of my historic cottage and interest in the history and the scenic beauty of this area, I welcome many visitors, not only from around the United States, but from around the world. Therefore, I speak as a great supporter of this initiative to build a visitor center. This would greatly enhance the experience I can give to my friends and people who come to visit this historic and scenic area. I think I would like to strongly support this. I also support the extensions that the restoration requires for adequate parking. As I use 9D going up and down a lot, particularly past Breakneck Ridge and other parts into Dutchess County from Putnam County, excessive parking along 9D, as you know, is a nightmare. And having good parking, adequate off-street parking is essential. And I believe that what the Restoration Committee has proposed is environmentally sensitive, appropriate, and is really not going to impact negatively anything environmentally or physically. So I want to register a strong vote of support for this initiative, both the initial development of a visitor center and the extension for the parking. And I thank you very much for allowing me to speak. And just for your record, David Watson, 20 The Boulevard, Cold Spring, New York. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm sure there's other people. Anybody next?
Hello. My name is Taylor Crothers. I live in 2066 Route 9D in Cold Spring, and I am a supporter of the Fjord Trail, and I'm here to speak on that. This isn't a debate about adding extra parking or the specious argument that somehow it promotes more traffic. There is almost zero parking along Route 9D now, and yet the visitation has increased dramatically year after year. I've been hiking in the area for almost 30 years, and I've watched it go from a trickle to a flood. The current lot in the back of Duchess Manor that was used for the wedding venue can accommodate at least as many cars and probably more than the proposed overflow lot. Its location is much better suited to ecological restoration and community programming than it is to parking at this point. It overlooks the river. It's going to be rewilded into a natural environment, and it is nearly twice the physical size of the proposed overflow lot on the south side of the property along Horace Lane, which will accommodate 47 vehicles. The parking near Horace will be a small permeable lot made of gravel and will be used occasionally, only when needed. The current proposed plan represents a minor adjustment to the property layout and a substantial net reduction in total parking spaces on the site in response to the neighbors' wishes. In fact, the argument could be made that improved parking at Duchess Manor serves locals in Fishkill and Greater Dutchess, most of all because they do not have the ability to take trains to the brand new Breakneck train station or use other methods to access the trail. This project is about managing something that is here to stay and should be celebrated, a growing public interest in our trails and natural environment, served by mass transit and common sense solutions. This is precisely the mission of New York State Parks, the Fjord Trail, and every other organization that manages natural resources in the state of New York. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Zach Kotsias, Kotzias. I spent the first 5 years of my life at 273 Route 9D. This is the Red House, owned by my great-grandmother, which is the first house bordering the Duchess Manor property to the north. Wasn't old enough to help much, but I was old enough to remember when my dad built our home, mostly with his own hands, at 229 Route 9D, which is the fourth house south of the manor. The other three houses were all aunts, uncles, and cousins on the Coors side of the family, while the white house that my dad grew up in and that my grandmother has always lived in is next to that old red house at 271 Route 9D. I'm not exaggerating when I say the whole neighborhood is family. I learned how to ride a bike in the Duchess Manor's parking lot. My first day of school and every day after that began with a bus pickup in front of the manor's main entrance. To my uncle's chagrin, my cousins and I used to drive go-karts and four-wheelers through that parking lot. In the winter, we used to go sledding down the hill from there toward Horace Lane. We had snowball fights. We played soccer in that field. Let's see. We used to climb the trees at the bottom of that hill that are planned to be removed for where this proposed overflow parking lot would be. We all knew that things would change when the property was sold to HHFT and with the incoming construction of the Fjord Trail. Honestly, I'll be happy to see the manor restored and being used for the community again. That being said, I hope that all of you on the Board of Appeals here hear me when I say please deny the request for the expanded overflow lot. We as a family were used to that main parking lot being filled with cars on weekends during weddings, galas, banquets, and other events. And seeing it filled again with fellow lovers of the outdoors is something that I welcome. But those cars during parties were never down the hill, in front of our homes where my cousins and I grew up together. Our family has almost 100 years of history in this neighborhood, and I hope to continue that. I hope that my kids in the not so near future and their cousins will be able to climb those same trees, maybe go sledding down that same hill, and play soccer in the same grass, and overall have the experience and opportunities that I was lucky to have living in such a neighborhood surrounded by family and nature, not by gravel and parked cars. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Ma'am?
Good evening. My name is Gina Hanselman, and we live at 283 Route 9D, just north of the manor. And I would like to say that these are not props, and this is not a theater, and the stage has already been set many years ago. This has been very, very frustrating for years now on myself and my family. I do not see this as necessary. I think this will bring more trouble than it's worth. I have a list that I did forget to bring of animals that we have seen, that I think that in our pristine area, bringing thousands upon more thousands of people, it will no longer be pristine, and our wildlife will disappear. Now, like I said, this has been years in the making, and this has been as frustrating as anything. And they want to make this a show. They're calling this a stage. These are people like my neighbor, who I very much agree with, Zachary. Generations have lived in this area, and we have lived peacefully, quietly, have dealt with the manor and their parties. But this is beyond, and I mean beyond control. And I am not happy, have not been happy in years. And as you can see, I am very uncomfortable up here talking right now. I do not like this, have not liked it from the beginning. And if I had money, I'd have lawyers sitting right next to me too, telling me what to say and what I can and cannot do. But I don't have that kind of money. And this is not a theater. These are homes. These are people's homes of generations. Thank you.
Thank you. Ma'am?
Hi. Oh, is this working?
Try the next one.
This one. Is this working? Okay, thank you. Good evening. This is the first time I've spoken in a town of Fishkill for. My name is Joanna Funnell, Johanna Funnell. I'm a resident of Beacon, Ward 4, 74 Howland Avenue. I've lived here for 10 years, if that's relevant. I'm not sure that it should be, but I know that sometimes in this conversation it is. I would like to think that I know the area that we're speaking about tonight pretty well. I extensively hike all over the highlands, the marked trails, the unmarked trails. I run down 9D as far as the sidewalk will let me, down Slocum Road to the Dutchess Junction Fire Department and back again. I occasionally visit the Notch Trailhead, the naturals around the Melsinger Reservoir. And what I notice about this stretch before me is that as it winds its way out of Beacon city limits, it becomes more inaccessible and inhospitable to me on a human scale. And by that I mean I can't go anywhere on it on foot or by bike. I can't see it at a slow pace. There are no views. The weeds are overgrown. I often notice this on my bike when I'm traveling at slower speeds than cars. And I often forget how close I am to the river because I can't see anything and I can't experience it. And so to me, the acquisition of Dutchess Manor, the property there, is a really significant addition to the community. It allows us to experience a little bit of that old grandeur, if you will, of that stretch of river that I know is there because I can see it in Beacon and I know there are properties there, but I can't access them because I'm not one of the lucky few to have one of those houses. And we have Mere Bow now down the other end, but that is an exorbitant place to have to spend your money. And for me to have somewhere that I can go and enjoy and really take in the views is something very important to me. So I am a supporter of this zoning offset, and I'm a supporter of the fjord trail in general. I love it as a community connector. Town of Fishkill roads are very dangerous for people to be on unless they're in cars. This will help me get to my neighbors and my friends better. I also think it helps to reimagine the space between Cold Spring and Beacon in a really new way that opens up the area. 90 is a dangerous road. It is an ugly one as well, if I may say so. It reimagines that space beyond something more than an industrial quarry or a train line or a road. So coming back to the zoning offset, why am I in support of it? I would be the last person to come here and normally speak about a parking lot and advocate for a parking lot. If you knew me, it would be the last thing on your bingo card. But I am becoming increasingly frustrated by the slow progress of this project and the constant roadblocks. I think I have some common ground with some of the people who have complaints about it, but I want this to go ahead. I really want this to go ahead. And I don't think what the Hudson Highlands Fjord Trail is asking is particularly egregious here. It's an overflow parking lot. It's not that many spaces. It's not, as I understand it, it's not going to be used that often. I don't think it's going to induce more demand. And I was here for the pandemic, and I hiked during the pandemic, and I used that road, and I saw cars parked on that blind bend uphill there. That was very dangerous, and I certainly don't want to go back to that era. I think we have to plan for contingencies here. And as I understand it, that's what that parking lot is doing.
Just if you could just wrap it up for us, please. Thank you. Anybody else like to speak? Gentleman in the back.
Okay, I guess you can tell from the accent I'm not from Fishkill. I'm actually from Cold Spring. I'm a resident of 8 New Street, Cold Spring, have been for the last 6 or so years.
Your name?
Together with a few friends.
Your name?
Paul Thompson.
Paul Thompson?
Paul Thompson, yeah. Thank you. Together with a few friends a few years ago, a couple of the friends are actually here in the audience today, I co-founded a small grassroots organisation in Phillipstown that was trying to advocate for trails and walkability more generally. Not surprisingly, we've been very supportive of the trail and really look forward to using it one day. As for sort of myself and the Hudson Highlands, I'm a regular biker, hiker, walker, runner between Beacon and Cold Spring. I've regularly attempted to use 9D to run along or cycle along, and it happens to be, I think, one of the most treacherous roads you could find anywhere to do that. I like what HHFT has planned for Duchess Manor. I think it would be a terrific amenity for the local residents, whether you're living here in Fishkill, Beacon, Cold Spring, Phillipstown, or further afield. As regards parking, in the past, I have repeatedly urged HHFT to facilitate as far as possible people getting to the trail heads by train. But that being said, I think in this particular case, it's quite impossible for everybody to get to Duchess Manor by train or on foot. I think it's inevitable that there has to be parking provided for. And for the reasons that the Field Trail has presented, I am very supportive of the overspill parking. But I do have a few small suggestions for the HHFT's consideration. I think, first of all, when designing the gravel and grass parking lot, I would encourage them to take a look at what Hudson Valley Shakespeare Festival has done at the Garrison. They've made quite a good job of the grass and gravel parking lot, creating some screening with trees and so on and so forth. I think secondly, I would urge them to consider charging for parking as a way of trying to ration and encourage people to arrive by other means. Third, I think there might be a case 3 years in, once the overspill parking is in place, to take stock and say, well, is it being used? Do we need it to be there or not? And possibly rewilding the area if that parking lot is not, for whatever reason, being used on a regular basis. And finally, I would encourage HHFT to expedite connecting Duchess Manor to Breakneck Ridge rail station. That of itself may encourage more people to arrive at the station and then walk to the manor, as opposed to getting a shuttle bus or driving directly to the manor. So again, if I can just reiterate, Paul Thompson, 8 New Street, Cold Spring, I'm supportive of both the trail, the renovation of the manor, and supportive also of the overspill parking. Thank you.
Thank you. Excuse me, just for 1 second. No, not you can sit. We understand the passion here on both sides. I'd just like to hear a little bit more about the effect of whether we grant this 150-11 or if we don't. A lot of this has come up before at the planning board. We've heard a lot of this before, and I don't want to take away from your passion, I understand. But we have a lot of people here tonight, and I'd like to kind of just rein it in a bit to a little bit more about how granting or not granting this 150-11 would affect people. Sir.
Thank you. My name is Douglas Richards, and my family limited partnership owns the lot, 2 lots north of the manor. And mindful of the request that was just made, parking is not something that happens in isolation. The parking leads to people hiking. That's the key thing to understand as to why this is going to create major problems. As it stands right now, all of the properties around the manor are 2A properties. They're all private homes. A lot of those homes are right on Route 9. I would urge you to drive along Route 9 and see how close those homes are to the road. As it stands right now, very few of the neighbors in the area have agreed to give easements in the back down by the river where the trail folks are hypothesizing putting a trail. What they're saying is they're going to put a trail along a sidewalk on Route 9D, feet from the homes of the people who've been living there for generations and who own these homes. They're talking about tens of thousands of visitors coming to the visitor center who will be, if they get their dream, walking along Route 9D within a few feet of people's homes and living rooms. How can anyone not think that that's detrimental to the neighborhood? Of course it is. We would be in a very different situation if HHFT had negotiated with the neighbors, worked something out where they had access to the back where they want to put their trail. That hasn't happened. They haven't even really pursued it very seriously. What they want to do is depress the value of the properties there, which they will succeed in doing if they overwhelming the neighborhood with parking and hikers hiking along a sidewalk right next to people's homes. Tens of thousands of people, bicycles. It's a nightmare scenario. So that's the effect. Now, the other thing that I think is very important is, the 150-11 says the board may, upon a determination, grant this relief. You're not obligated to. You should be guided by the same zoning policies that you generally deal with for variances, area variances, use variances. Those principles are the right principles to apply. They're what you're trained to do and what you do day to day. Those principles are applicable here. This is not an automatic zombie provision that creates an entitlement to HHFT. But if you read the letters that they've submitted, they act as though it is an entitlement. All they have to do is show that they acquired a lot, and they get to spread their art, their business usage broadly across the neighborhood, as though it doesn't matter whether that has an adverse impact on people, and doesn't matter whether it was self-created. They cite this Allen v. Adam case to support them. Allen v. Adam involved a policy that wasn't anywhere in the code. That's not what we have here at all. The Zoning Board of Appeals has a very detailed code that identifies the important policies. And those are the policies that should be applied. I would submit that when 150-11 was passed and they said the board may make a determination, all they were doing was giving another arrow in the quiver for the board so that if an area variance didn't make sense in the particular situation or a use variance, you would have the option of doing this extension. But it was not meant to just override all of the policies that govern zoning decisions. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Erin Sign Whitson, W-H-I-T-S-O-N. My family lives immediately adjacent to the Duchess Manor property. I submitted a detailed letter to the board, so I'm not going to repeat all of that. Instead, I want to focus on what I believe is the central question before you. HHFT would like this board to view tonight's request as a straightforward technical exercise. Their position is essentially that once certain requirements are met, the determination should follow. But that's not what the code says. The code says that less restrictive district regulations may be extended. May, not shall. The word is important because it means this board has discretion. The question before you is not simply whether HHFT has satisfied a calculation. The question is how that discretion should be exercised. The circumstances here are unusual. For decades, 14 Chorus Lane was a separate parcel in the R2A district. The Duchess Manor parcel was a separate parcel in the RB district. On April 17th of this year, those parcels were consolidated. Now, less than 2 months later, HHFT is asking the board to use that newly created configuration as the basis for extending RB regulations into land that has been zoned R2A for decades. To me, that raises a simple question. Is that the use the town board intended when it adopted 150-11? Because tonight's decision is about more than Duchess Manor. Whatever interpretation the board adopts here becomes the board's interpretation of 150-11 going forward. I also ask that the board not to view 150-11 in isolation. Article 4 tells us why zoning districts exist. The purpose of the R2A district is to preserve the rural residential character and natural features of the town. The land at issue has long served as a transition buffer between Duchess Manor and the surrounding residential neighborhood. It is now proposed for use as a parking lot. I understand that the site plan itself is not right before you tonight, but I do not think we can ignore why this determination is being requested. The connection between this request and the proposed parking lot is clear. This board has discretion under 150-11. And for reasons that I have discussed tonight, I do not believe that 150-11 was intended to be used in the circumstances presented here, and I do not believe extending RB regulations into R2A land is consistent with the purpose of this district. I am respectfully asking the board to deny the request. You're hearing a lot of passionate stuff tonight on both ends, obviously, and the neighbors have been continuously frustrated. We're not against a park, we never have been, and we're not against safe parking. Multiple parking lots will be built around us, including at the Duchess Manor, across the street at Wade Lot, north of us and south of us. So there's ample parking. The frustration has been the lack of collaboration and negotiation with the neighbors and the community in Beacon and Cold Spring, all of whom are represented here tonight. It's not just us. So we're just looking for a safe way to support the park and live in harmony with it, rather than just be steamrolled over. And that's ultimately what you're hearing tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Good evening. Peter Henderson, Henderson. I want to raise 2 points the board should consider before acting on this request. The first, you've heard already, so I'll just summarize briefly. Section 150.11 says the RB regulations may be extended, and not that they shall be. Second, the context, which is vital here. The lot configuration that qualifies HHFT for consideration under this provision didn't exist until April 17th of this year, 2 weeks before the application was filed. Before that, 263 Route 9D was entirely RB, and 14 Chorus Lane was in R2A. Neither parcel straddled the boundary. HHFT merged them specifically to manufacture eligibility for this provision. Section 150.11 exists to address parcels that naturally straddle a district boundary, not lots that were engineered weeks before an application specifically to take advantage of a perceived loophole. HHFT originally sought a town board rezoning of 14 Chorus Lane when that path became difficult They dropped it, merged the lots, and came here instead. This board's discretion exists precisely for situations like this one. You should see it for what it is, an attempt to circumvent the authority of both the planning board and the town board. You should deny the request and let the planning board determine if the amount of parking being proposed is consistent with the site's use as a visitor center. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to speak?
Good evening, everyone. My name is John Doyle. I live in Knoll Court in Fishkill. I grew up in the city of Poughkeepsie and have lived in the town of Fishkill for the last 10 years. Raised my family there. One of my favorite things to do with my kids and my daughters is to go hiking. And I'm blessed in that way. We have a lot of fun in the trails around here. And it's funny when we're driving around town and we see construction sites. You know, often my kids daydream and they say, well, "What do you think they're building? Do you think it's a park or a playground?" And often I have to tell them, "No, it's a storage facility or a gas station." But in this case, I've been really thrilled to be able to share that we have this world-class trail system being built in our backyard. I appreciate the concerns on both sides of this issue, but from my point of view, the extent that we can increase access to these incredible mountains is a worthy pursuit. I think Fishkill posts parking for a lot of outsiders to use Walmart and Home Depot and our medical facilities, and I think it would be worthy for us to also allow access to these mountains. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Hi, Susan Peel, P-E-E-H-L, and I'm in Cold Spring. I wanted to address the precedent that HHFT's lawyer brought up earlier. They were saying that this has happened before, where a restricted business section has gone into a residential section. Well, I looked at the map early on when this whole thing was beginning to come through the Fishkill boards. And what I saw was one red dot, which was restricted business, in the middle of a huge area of residential. It was the only place in Fishkill that occurred. Every other place, residential is separate or intermixed, a little scattered here and there with the business. That's not what's happened here. It's all by itself. And as we heard from the chorus people, this happened with a family. They took one whole section and they made a little teeny part of it to be business. That's a very unique situation. But as well, I'd like to speak generally, because I don't live in Fishkill, but I've been watching the applicant put their carefully segmented applications through various towns and boards over the past 3 years now, and I see a pattern. The application before this board asks for an interpretation of zoning to allow a 50-foot zoning extension. I see this as a cynical attempt by HHFT, the applicant, to circumvent next steps, as they were directed to take by the Fishkill Town Board. That board made clear to HHFT that they were to fully answer members' questions and meet and work with the neighboring property owners before coming back to their board to pursue their zoning change. Instead, HHFT is elected to come to you. Looking through Cold Spring eyes, I see this as part of a years-long pattern where town and village boards that were initially identified as involved agencies have been conveniently removed from holding any authority over this project. This is the case with our boards in Cold Spring and Phillipstown. Yet our streets will be used for construction and maintenance vehicles and people finding their ways through the trail. And what about the costs and the water usage? That's all going to be on our town, but we have no say. One tactic used by the applicant that has been to divide authority between municipalities through segmentation. It seems now they're doing that with smaller individualized applications before different boards so that no one town or board can easily see the cumulative effects of a 7.5-mile attraction that's going along 9D with up to 5 parking lots in a 2-mile area. I mean, what is that going to mean for people pulling in and out? And what is it going to mean for traffic? It has multiple parking lots, shuttle service, massive need for bathrooms and drinking water, not to mention environmental and drainage concerns. Without our boards having a say over this project, we look to you guys. And so far what I want to say is that I commend the boards in Fishkill. I have the utmost respect for you. At every point, there's been diligence and looking over the process, going over again, giving the opportunity to the public to speak. And I know you all listen. I see it. So I take heart that you all are on the job. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Anybody else like to speak? Yep.
Isaac Bravo. Breslau, B-R-E-S-L-A-U-R. And I live on Sunset Hill Road in Fishkill. Okay. And most of my comments were going to be about in support of the general project, and out of respect to you, you've heard enough.
Thank you for that.
So I'll keep very brief. I think most people here, I assume, have gone to Dutchess Manor for many events and know how massive the parking facility was over there. And the proposal for supplemental parking for periodic use, and all I want to say is I don't think that's going to be that big an impact, and I would support you implementing that. So, you know, that's basically what I was going to say. But thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Good evening. My name is Tom Steeves, S-T-E-E-V-E-S. I live on Slocum Road near the Dutchess Manor, and I don't support this proposal. I want to be clear about what I feel HHFT is asking you to do tonight, because the structure of their request reflects their strategy, and it has been their strategy to date. As you've heard, HHFT effectively created or manufactured the criteria for eligibility of 150-11 by merging the lots to invoke the clause. And New York law has been very clear that they've condemned self-imposed hardship as a strategy to subvert zoning protections. And my comments pertain to those zoning protections. As you know, zoning protections exist to preserve the character of our communities, and those are being subverted here. So they have presented their request as a small offset, extending regulations onto 14 Corus Lane. But that itself does not allow a commercial parking lot on that lot. All it's doing is removing a barrier so the planning board can then approve a site plan with the parking lot drawn onto that strip. So your determination is just going to clear the way for that process. That's all you're doing here. You're handling the dimensions, and HHFT is handling the rest. And the one question that actually matters in all of this is whether a commercial parking lot serving the surrounding trails as regional infrastructure is appropriate, and that will and a parking lot that will massively facilitate a huge increase of visitation to the area because of the fjord trail. Is that even allowed in the RB zoning? And that question is never adequately addressed by anyone ultimately. And we've seen that strategy before. It's how the environmental review was split apart and segmented. And it's the same process here. All they're doing is splitting up the components. They'd previously encountered resistance from the town board to rezoning the land, so they're pursuing a different pathway to get exactly what they want. The use question should be addressed squarely because the intended use, as I understand it, is highly questionable in terms of how the zoning code is currently written. So they're justifying the use as recreation, but what they're actually building is a parking lot. And it's not even the manor's own parking. The manor has its own dedicated parking spaces, planned into the RB parcel. The purpose of the parking that they're calling overflow is, by the state's own environmental findings and their own statements on record and those of their advisors, to absorb demand from the surrounding trails. And that matters because parking is permitted in RB only as an accessory use, defined in law as incidental and subordinate to a building at that site. In this instance, it needs to be subordinate to the manner which is stated in the application as having, quote, independent utility to allow the segmentation to take place in the first place. But the overflow plan for R2A zone is not accessory to the manor. It serves off-site trailheads, and that makes it a standalone commercial parking for remote use. And if you go through the RB schedule, that is not allowed in the RB schedule. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Louise Daniele, D-A-N-I-E-L-E. I don't know Mr. Richards, I just heard him say his name, but I also heard the attorney say that she saw a lot of props. This is free speech. And what I'm about to say is free speech. What everybody here has said is free speech. So I didn't really appreciate that. So I want to make sure that his sign is seen by everybody at home because he took the time to make it. So I was trying to catch myself up on the project and the matter before the zoning board tonight. And if I'm not wrong, they are here because they chose not to move forward and request the town board make zoning changes. I was at that town board meeting a few months ago and was shocked to hear the answer to the question that Councilmember Tatino was asked, if they were planning on charging for parking. I don't believe they were transparent to that point and never advised anyone that they had planned on charging for parking. They answered that they were going to charge for parking. After that meeting, it would appear, in my opinion, that they saw the writing on the wall, that they probably would not get their change. And instead, they decided to come to you, to the zoning board for a, quote, determination. As the other gentleman said in the green, and someone else, this is why they're here. They didn't get what they want somewhere else. They saw they weren't going to, and they just keep coming and coming and coming until they try to get what they want. But hopefully, they won't. A determination is what they want, not what is better for the tax-paying residents of our town. And I listened to the people that came up here. The ones that are against it live in Cold Spring and Beacon. The people who are, or the ones who are against you saying yes for it, they don't live here. They're not tax-paying residents. I am, I believe he is, the other man in the green is, and we pay taxes. We should be who you are working for and listening to. But what does the developer want? They want it. So they aren't satisfied with they have not been able to negotiate. They want more. And I have to wonder why. To me, it appears to be paid parking spaces would benefit them monetarily. And what comes next? If it were to be granted, would they find another area to extend to in the future and add even more spots and make even more money? I read our code, section 15011, which they hang their hat on. There is nothing in it that says it is mandatory, as numerous people have said, that you can approve this request of a determination. It is just a, quote, may. I appreciate the time that you all put into being volunteers on the zoning board and don't want you to feel pressured to say yes, when in my opinion the right thing is to determine it is not best in the interests of the residents of our town, especially those residents who are very much affected by this project and have continued to speak for a very long time against the ever-changing requests that keep morphing into other requests. This project will continue, as we have heard that the planning board has approved it. It can and should continue, but just not with 47 more parking spots, which they try to say is not what it is about, but in the end, it is. That's exactly what it's about. They have double standards. They want you to see the smoke and mirrors and just think it's all a big game, but it's not to the people who live near there, and it's not to the taxpaying residents. And lastly, I watched the last zoning board meeting on TV, and I didn't care for the tone that you were all spoken to by the project's presenter, the attorney. She reminded me of an attorney from a different project years ago who thought that threatening a lawsuit would make a different board cave to their decision. Don't be afraid to, quote, determine that this should not be approved. Our town has weathered many lawsuits from developers and won. Hopefully it won't progress to that. I also appreciated that you held this public hearing tonight for the people like myself to voice their opinions. It can end tonight with a no, and they can stop asking for more and move forward with it, what they have already been approved. And that's what it should be. Thank you for your time. Thank you, sir, for making this.
Thank you.
Yep.
That's close.
Good evening. My name is Michael McKee, spelled M-C capital K-E-E. And I'm here because I was one of the co-authors of a 2007 feasibility study of a hiking and biking trail from Cold Spring to the Breakneck Tunnel. And so I've been involved with this project a lot. I'm a resident of Phillipstown in Garrison, New York. We also collaborated with the town of Fishkill, Phillipstown and Fishkill, to get an additional planning grant from the New York State Greenway, which sought to begin to think about extending that short distance from Cold Spring to the Breakneck Tunnel to thinking more in terms of Cold Spring, Beacon, and beyond, because Route 9D is fundamentally unsafe. The New York State Greenway changed the bike trail from Route 9D to Route 9 in an effort to guide traffic away. But people keep coming. The people who had the good sense to buy property in this beautiful area a long time ago are now finding that the rest of the world has discovered it as well and wants to come here. I think that I urge you to approve this request because I feel the Hudson Highlands Fjord Trail has done a thorough and very good job of planning and seeking to facilitate the arrival of people that are already in the many thousands and want to make their access safe and their access to the river, which to date has been limited. The train blocks it to a degree. I'm in favor of trains, but the people coming, I believe, have a right to be here, and I think they have a right to feel safe while they are here. And I think bringing about access, for instance, at the former site of the private enterprise that was there before is a very good idea. This area, I think, needs the planning to accommodate the people that will be coming here anyway. It's a unique and uniquely beautiful place, and people will continue to come, and I believe that it's necessary to be ready for them. So, thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else here tonight like to speak? Peek around the podium.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Dave Morandi. I live on 39 East Mountain Road, Cold Spring, New York. I was former mayor of Cold Spring for 7 years and former town councilman for 3. During my tenure as mayor, I was the Village Cold Springs liaison and member of the Fjord Trail Steering Committee. I'm currently the president of Protect the Highlands, a nonprofit organization opposed to the current iteration of the Fjord Trail. I've been following or intimately a part of the Fjord Trail discussion for almost 2 decades now, so I'm very familiar with the Fjord Trail. I think what a lot of people are missing tonight and conflating is this the Fjord Trail or is this the Dutchess Manor property? According to HHFT, who segmented this piece and say that it's a standalone. So actually the conversation should be just centered around Dutchess Manor property and not the Fjord Trail. We're not opposed in any way to the renovations at Dutchess Manor. We're not opposed to it being a visitor center, and we're not opposed, as many would like to infer, opposed to tourists or visitors coming into our area. What we'd like to see is controlled planning, and that's where we feel they've miserably failed. The question, so the question is Dutchess Manor property a standalone or the center of the fjord trail? As they claim. For the, sorry, I have all these scribbles along here, so bear with me for a second. If it's a standalone in service of the current trails and visitor center for the Hudson Highlands State Park Reserve, then there's no need for expansion. If it's part of the approved fjord trail, which currently has 3 Article 78s filed against it, then the property was illegally segmented. It should not be reviewed as a standalone. There's a drastic difference in how the property will be used in each scenario. As a standalone visitor center, there will be a small, limited number of visitors at any given time. There will be less traffic going in and out of this area if it's just to serve the Highlands Park, as it is. As the operational center for the Grand Fjord Trail, it will draw hundreds of thousands of visitors, which will draw hundreds of thousands of visitors. It will not only be a visitor center, but a main parking for the Fjord Trail and the hub of their shuttle service. The request for the expansion under this code provision should be denied because Dutchess Manor is obviously the center, has been designed as the center of the Fjord Trail and not a standalone project. The application before the Fishkill Planning Board as is a standalone. It's been segmented, so it should be reviewed as this. If it's going to be part of the Fjord Trail and the center of Visitor Center, then it should be reviewed as such, and there should be much more scrutinizing of the plan and much more questions being asked by the planning boards and the zoning boards. As for how the Dutchess Manor parking will solve issues on 9D, this just kind of defies common sense. And if you see what's going on currently along 9D as part of their plan, they've already solved the problem in their minds of 9D traffic. They've eliminated parking on the west side along the road, parallel parking, but they've added, they've let the remaining parking stay on the east side, which is confusing. So, just to sum up, I don't believe that I believe that the parking along 9D is always going to be a problem. I don't think they've solved the problem, and Dutchess Manor certainly won't solve the problem. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Anybody else like to speak tonight?
Hello, Timothy Haskell, 966 Wolcott Avenue, Beacon. So the purpose I believed for this meeting was regarding the Dutchess Manor and not someone trying to segment it. It was requested, from what I understand, and it was about the Dutchess Manor. So I'm going to stick to that. I support fully and enthusiastically the renovation, the reuse of the Dutchess Manor. It is, before all else, a visitor center and a park, and I will never not want that. And the whole point of the Fjord Trail, of which this may or may not be, and I'm fine with it being the center of the Fjord Trail, even though it's not relevant tonight, is that it is to protect and to take people out of risk who are already going to Breakneck and traveling in that area. That was the origin of this. And I think that this is a good solution. I'm a little confused by some of the cynicism, but so that's basically all I got to say, is that I'm fully supportive of it, and I'm glad that you guys took this meeting and are listening to us. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
My name is Karen Frillman. I live at 70 Melzinger Dam Road,
and Route 9D is my main access point. I can't go anywhere without driving on Route 9D. So I have an interest in what happens on that road. And I admit that it's a vested interest and, you know, it will affect my life. And I guess what I think, this is a debate over a small piece of land, but it's about a region. That's why so many people are concerned about it. Every car that drives on Route 9D creates congestion on a narrow road. This is about 47 spots. And yet we're hearing about thousands of people coming. And I guess we have a huge parking lot at the Metro North Station in Beacon. We have a huge parking lot at the Metro North Station in Cold Spring. But I haven't heard any real conversation about, let's use Metro North as a way to bring people to this. Drive to the train, park, free parking, and get a train to this new spot that's being built. Let's look creatively at how we can use the resources that exist in our region. I guess that's what I think planning is about. How are we going to manage all of these thousands of people? 47 spots is not going to do it. The people who live there care about the quality of their life. They're Fishkill residents. I think we have to listen carefully to their concerns. The other thing is, if I understand it correctly, access to the Fjord Trail has not yet been secured. And so why don't we wait and see how this all plays out before we build an overflow lot? To what? I mean, if people are going to be walking along Route 9D, that's a terrifying thought. There's, you know, when I see a bicyclist or a runner on Route 9D and I'm driving, it makes me feel stressed because I worry about their safety. So I guess why aren't we thinking in a bigger way? If we're talking about thousands of people, there exist some accommodations. If the MTA is really building a train station that's going to stop there, let's use existing resources. Let's be creative. Let's make this region work for the people who live here and the people who want to come here. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who'd like to speak? Anybody? Last chance? Ma'am?
Good evening. My name is Kathy Kotzias, Kotzias. I live at 229 Route 9D, which is 2 houses south of 14 Coors Lane and the Duchess Manor property. Everything I wrote has been said at least 3 times tonight. Most importantly, determination may be extended, not shall be extended. R2A is to preserve the rural residential character and natural features of the town. Now it's being proposed to be used as a parking lot. Forget all that. My real concern is what happens if this is approved today or soon, and a year from now, they decide to ask for another 50-foot determination into 14 Chorus. Now it's another 50 feet closer to my house. Now it's within 200 feet of my driveway and my yard. I don't think this is where they're planning to stop. They're going to ask for a determination now. If they get one, they're going to wait. They're going to do another one. We need to stop them now. This is not what 15011 is intended to do, and I respectfully request that you decline or deny their request. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay. I think everybody's really been very passionate over this, and I really appreciate all your comments, and we will take them all into consideration when we deliberate this and decide what we should do. At this point, I'd like to go over a couple things myself, and then I would like some of the members of the board to see what they have to say. I'm sorry? Oh, did you want to speak before I start? The attorney. Did you want to maybe respond to some of what you've heard, or?
I can wait.
Okay. Okay, then you can get it all down at once. Okay, that's fine. All right, your letter dated June 2nd, 2026. There was one thing I saw in there, and it kind of got me thinking a little bit. Was as explained in our letter dated April 29, 2026, the requirements of 150-11 are met here. So I have a few questions on those requirements, and I'm hoping that maybe you can answer them. The first thing that came to my mind was that there was a lot merger done. Have you received a new tax grid number? Has that gone into the record so we know officially that this has been done?
Yes,
That is in the record? Okay,
Yes.
'cause I did not see it, so that's why I'm asking.
yes.
Okay, it
There
is.
is a tax lot number.
Okay, and it's been put into the record? Debbie, do you have?
I don't have the new tax number, no.
So that has not been submitted?
Well, I think we gave it to you, the new tax lot number, in the letter that we wrote.
I did not see that.
Pull that up right now. Which letter?
Try June 1st. June 2nd first, yeah.
Can you try to blow it up? It just says these lots have been consolidated at the bottom of the page. I don't see the new lot number.
It's, I don't want to tell you the wrong number.
Okay.
But there is a single tax lot number, and it's one of those two numbers. So I can
It's either the
confirm that.
14 Coors Lane number or the
Yes.
263
Yes,
Route 90
yes,
number?
yes.
Okay. Well, I
That's the
think that should be
surviving- that's the
submitted
surviving
into the
tax
record.
number.
Yes, that should be submitted into the record, okay?
Okay, I
Because,
believe
you know,
we put it in something, but I'll
Right
confirm.
off the bat, that's, hard for us to even act without having that in the record. But we can move on and then discuss the rest of this first, okay? Secondly, I'm a little concerned on the area test. I was reading some of the comments by some of the public, some of them that they were emailed in, and a concern that I have, and I think it came from one of the residents, was that this survey that was used to determine the 50% has been scaled up, scaled down, what have you. Do you have a current survey signed and stamped by a surveyor firm?
When you
Or are
say-
we just using an old survey that got scaled up or scaled down to determine the 50% factor?
We have the survey that was done as part of the purchase. We had to do survey when we did the purchase of the two properties. So that was done in 2020.
Okay, has that been
And-
submitted into the record?
It's the basis of the map. I don't know if we've submitted the
Because
survey.
personally, I have reservations. I mean, I was in construction for a long time, reading plans. When you start scaling plans up and down, things get distorted. Now, we're talking about 0.5 acres of a difference between 50% and not. So when you're using a plan that's been scaled, in this case, I believe it was scaled down from, it was scaled down. So, I mean, I don't know how accurate that plan is at this point. And when you're talking about, 0.5 acres or 54.1% to 45.9%, that's pretty close, and I think I'd really like to see a signed, stamped survey showing that this actually is 50%.
We can get that for you.
Okay.
I did, just so you're aware, I did speak with Beatty and Watson about this and whether they had any concerns that their stamp-signed survey would be inaccurate in any way. And they had absolutely no concern. They were confident that that survey accurately reflects the acreage.
Okay, I think personally, I would like to see that submitted into the record, a actual stamped, signed survey, not a scaled one, an actual survey, showing the zoning boundaries and the lot lines. There was another comment here that I saw about this being self-created. I mean, that's not really enough to make a denial of a determination or an approval, but, I believe this is a self-created hardship based on, it wasn't as if you got the property, it was like you bought the two pieces of property and kind of created the situation. Let me just see what else I have here. 50% test, I had this. Okay. Okay, I think that's really about all I had, other than, yeah, I'm a little uncomfortable with, you know, the way this is being done. The town, you know, you guys did go to the town board first, and then, you know, I guess you decided that this way may be easier, I don't know, cheaper, whatever. It's just, that's just a little, you know, unsure. A lot of things came up tonight that are making me, you know, a little unsure what's going on here. I think I need to have a conversation. I think we may need to have a conversation with our attorneys on some of the stuff that we heard tonight, some of the stuff that we've read. At this point, I'd like to ask some of the board members if they have any questions or comments. Arnold, let me start with you.
I don't have any questions. I went out to the site and looked at it.
Just pull up, Mike.
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't have any questions. I went out to the site and looked at it, so it seems pretty simple what they're asking, which is to put that lot on the side of the hill, which is close to, because I know the original plan in April was a much larger parking area around Duchess Manor, which I think would be more intrusive than what they're proposing here.
Okay. Doug?
Well, I think you covered a lot of it, and I don't really have a huge problem with the fear trail or any of that. I just have a problem with determining the language of this law, and that's why I'd like to speak to the attorney as well, just the language of this law.
Okay. Isabel, do you have any questions?
You covered a lot.
Yeah.
A lot, questions we have to answer.
Okay. Ann?
You know, the folks that I appreciate that you traveled up from Cold Spring, Phillipstown, and you know, I think it comes across very clear that I haven't heard anyone say they don't want the trail. You know, there's so much beauty that's here. So I think that is getting a little bit confused with what we're looking at, which is the 47 car lot, you know, that they're, it does make me a little bit uncomfortable that we are kind of making a determination into a residential zone. I'd like to confer with the attorney as well.
Okay. John?
I agree. I've been to the site several times. I actually play with our RC rock crawlers there a lot. I feel without an adequate survey, lot line boundaries to show exactly where it's going, that's updated, it's going to be hard. And then, you know, again, as piggybacking off what Ann said, both sides are, you know, not up to it, but there's got to be some form of, you know, give and take. We don't know about that trail system coming in either, and that would be based, you know, that would be given based off of that. You know, again, speaking to the attorney and really seeing an updated tax or survey with lot lines and boundaries is definitely important now.
I think so. Just a couple other things that I know we've been told many times before, parking belongs in planning, and I get that. Okay, tonight you're asking for a 50-foot offset to provide parking. So it kind of comes back at us a little bit, too. I mean, I know we just have to look at these requirements and whether they're met, and we may or may not make a determination in your favor or against your favor. But we do have to consider it. I know I've seen some faces out there that, you know, when somebody brings up parking, it's like, oh, you know, it doesn't belong here. But it kind of does when you're asking for us to give you this 50-foot offset. So I just wanted to kind of explain why that's come up. Okay. You guys would like to respond to any of the public's comments?
I would.
Our comments?
I think we would.
Feel free.
Okay, thank you, thank you. So first, I just want to start out by saying that I think the HHFT team have great respect for the boards and the process. And even though there were some comments indicating that we don't, I just want to say personally, and on behalf of our team, that we do. And I would like to also acknowledge where we agree with some of the members of the public that are asking you to deny the favorable determination that we're asking. This determination is in this board's discretion. I mean, the word may is there. I don't think we ever said otherwise. So if that was, if you think that we're saying that you must grant it, that's not what we're saying. We're saying it's written in your code, and we're asking you to please grant the request because we do meet the requirements that are set forth in the code. And the area variance and use variance factors that are in the code don't apply here. That if they were to apply here, they would have been written into the code. So then what do you do? What factors do you use? I would submit to you respectfully that you need to look at, and people have said this, people that want you to deny our request, you look at what the intent is of the R2A zoning district. And I would submit to you that on the question of whether granting the offset would interfere with the residential character of the R2A district, it would not, for the same reasons that the planning board has already found that the site development plan that they looked at, which had more parking and also contemplated a rezoning, was consistent with the town's comprehensive plan and was consistent with community character. The planning board cited robust landscaping, tree preservation, safe pedestrian connections, historic preservation, public recreational opportunities, all as positive impacts from the project. So to me, this board's analysis should be looking at what does this 50-cent offset do by way of interfering with the intent of the R2A district? And our position is that it does not interfere with it. There's robust landscaping, et cetera, to protect the neighbors. So we are respectfully asking that you grant the request. Just a couple of other things. Your discomfort or confusion over allegations that we have circumvented the planning board and the town board. We have been at the planning board for well over a year. And the decision to pursue a path that became available to us was not in any way underhanded or part of some big strategy. The scale of the project was reduced, and at that point, we realized that this provision under your code, which has been in your code for quite some time and has been used by this board to extend commercial use into a residential district, was appropriate. And so I just wanted to make that point as well. Peter, did you?
Yeah, so Peter Mullen, I'm the president. Okay. Peter Mullen, I'm the president of the Fjord Trail. Yeah, just to follow up on what Helen was saying and process-wise, I think it's important to recognize, we purchased both lots at the same time, and the planning for the Fjord Trail Visitor Center has considered both lots in an integrated way since the beginning, right? So in all of the meetings that we've had with the planning board, they've always been presented together. And over that time, we have successively scaled the project back in response to the neighbors' comments. So that's how we ended up where we are. And this wasn't a big change. I think this has all been in response to neighbors' comments and our attempt to try to do something that we thought would fit within the neighborhood and the context. So that's how we got there. It wasn't, as Helen said, I don't think a last minute, ditched effort. So.
Just a quick question, just for a matter of information for myself. Was there a reason that you went this way rather than going to the town board and getting rezoned?
So I mean, there's a reason, partly because the code is it's in the code, right? And also, it doesn't, we're asking for a very limited decision here. We're not asking for full rezoning, nor do we need it, nor do we want it at this point. So it didn't make sense in our minds to go through a whole rezoning consideration process when that wasn't what was required at this time.
And was that a time and money decision? Is that basically what it is? I mean, did you get far with the town board, or did you just?
No.
I watch an unhealthy amount of town board meetings, and I just want to get caught up.
We didn't start that process at all.
Okay.
Okay, I mean, in the meeting that was referred to, just because it's come up a couple of times, was a general briefing about the Fjord Trail in general to the town board for their information at their request. So it had nothing to do with even the planning board submission. It was, or the Duchess Manor. It was about the Fjord Trail in general. So no, we hadn't initiated.
Okay, thank you.
And I'll just add that we also were hearing some anxiety from our neighbors that us rezoning to RB was an intent for us to do some larger development that we hadn't yet told them. So we thought this is a less anxiety-inducing thing, that it's very clearly not allowing a rezone for any larger development. It's really just capturing that area, which again, we had already scaled back to through, I think, 3 or 4 different scale backs in conversation with the neighbors to this more narrow margin.
It's important to, after we're done with this process, we have to go back to the planning board for site plan approval, right? So this is not an approval of the site plan, right? This is just a code provision that the planning board requires to be able to evaluate the site plan. So I think we were again, the hope was that this would be a streamlined process for everybody, right? Because we've been through a lot, and I've heard from the neighbors, they don't want to come out to more meetings too. So we were trying to do something that we thought was going to be simpler and easier for everybody.
At first, I thought so too, and then we saw all these people come out who had very legitimate concerns, so we wanted to listen and make an informed decision.
Yes. There was a concern raised about creep, right? That if you were to grant this limited request for a 50-foot offset, that would just then turn into another request and another request. Well,
can't happen.
That's not possible.
No.
Right. We would have to, because the code says 50 feet. And if you're going to go more than 50 feet, as you know, you would need a variance. So that concern is just, it's not the intent, and it's not realistic.
Okay. And just one other comment about the parking. I can tell you, I watch all the planning board meetings. Not all the planning board is on board with your parking.
That's why it's potentially, that's why it's not even 47 spaces, right? It's potentially 47 spaces, right? We don't know what the planning board is going to do.
We don't know.
And we know, exactly, so we still have more process to do on this, and we know we have to go to the next planning board meeting ready to show why the supply is needed for the operation of the visitor center, and we'll be doing that at the next meeting.
Okay. Did you have anything else?
I would like to give you the correct tax number, but I just need to open up my computer and find it.
If you want, if you just submit that to Debbie and have her put it into the record, that would be fine.
Okay.
So can we
For me to write it down doesn't make no sense.
The survey question, because I think we have all the data on that, certainly as part of our planning board submission. We have surveys of both lots. One lot's bigger than the other. The lot that's bigger than the other is the RB lot. So we know that it's more than 50% of the total.
But how is that determined? By a scaled-up survey?
No, by a survey, a stamped survey.
By an actual stamped survey?
An actual stamped survey.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was only scaled so that the planning board consultants could review it at the scale that they wanted to see it at. So
okay.
That's why.
There shouldn't be any question.
Okay. Okay, at this point, I guess we should maybe entertain a motion to close the public hearing? Does that sound possible?
Yeah, you could do that, but I know there's a couple items that were just mentioned with the tax lot number and the survey. If you're going to close the public hearing, you should close it subject to receipt of of that and give the applicant 7 days or whatever they would need to submit those?
5 days.
5 days?
5 days.
2 days. Yeah.
Do I hear one? Okay. Would somebody like to make that motion?
I make that motion contingent upon the submittal of the tax.
Second?
The tax number.
Make the second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Public hearing is closed. Okay, at this point, based on what I've heard from the board members and my thoughts as well, I mean, I hate to do this to you guys, but I would like to adjourn this till next month to give us some time to get some advice from council to make sure that, this is something new for us. We haven't dealt with something like this in many years probably, okay, long before I was here. So we just want to do it right, okay? So I'm looking to adjourn this till next month, if I can get a motion to do that. Anybody make that motion?
I'll make that motion.
Isabel, second? Ann? I'm sorry.
I was sorry, I didn't want to mess up
That's okay.
the order and Robert's Rules of Order, but just one thing, I'm not going to be here, I'm not going to be in the country at the next meeting. I can give you legal advice between now and July 11th, but I'm not coming back until after the next meeting.
Okay.
So if,
Have an executive session.
so you could do anything you want. You can, I'm going to have somebody from my office, certainly, who's going to be here at that meeting.
I have an idea. What do you think about a straw poll, just to get an idea of where everybody's at? You know, we don't need reasoning behind it or anything, but just, you know, kind of where everybody's leaning, maybe then.
We could do that, or I think you probably would benefit from legal, based upon everything I've heard tonight. I think an attorney-client session between now and the time that I leave, you know, at any point, either whether it's a Zoom or something else, where I could just give you the legal advice.
Okay.
And then maybe come back at the next meeting, knowing, well, you might vote, you might not vote at the next meeting, but you would have you would have until the next meeting
Right.
as well. The only question is, I mean, it's interesting because you've got 62 days from the close of a public hearing to decide an interpretation or a variance. I'm not sure if that 62-day time period applies in this circumstance or doesn't, but I also don't know, I haven't done the math on what 62 days versus the meeting that's in August. Do we know if that's within or without?
We have the
And maybe what we could do is just proactively ask the applicant if they would consent. If you don't make a decision at the next meeting, that you'd make a decision at the August meeting, if it happens to be outside the 62-day period, would the applicant consent to that, to an extension of that time?
I mean, of course, we want to work with the zoning board to fit everybody's schedule. I do want to just make a plea that we're on a bit of a schedule and trying to get this project implemented and knowing what we can or cannot do. So I think if there's a way to not wait for the August meeting for an action, that would be helpful. If there's a way we can figure out how to make it.
We would love to try to get this done at the next meeting, if we could. But if you would at least to agree to what David's saying, I think, you know.
So we just saw, and I appreciate that, and I think the intent would be to try to be ready, do everything possible to be ready to render a decision at the July meeting. I was just informed that the August meeting, if in the unlikely event that it has to go to August, the August meeting is the day after, is like the 63rd day. So with that said, proactively understanding that the best good faith would be to get a decision in July. If for some reason it can't be done due to a variety of schedules, are you okay waiving that 62 days for a day?
You gave us 2 days, we'll give you 1 day.
Okay. Very good.
So we have a motion on the floor to adjourn to July 7th of 2026. No, July 21st, 2026.
That's correct. Yes.
Thank you. With the conditions stated, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passed. See you guys next month.
Okay,
Thank you.
And if there's anything we can provide other than what's already been requested, we're happy to.
Okay, thank you. And thank the general public for coming and speaking tonight. We really appreciate it. Now, you want to do that tonight?
Can you
We want
Yeah,
to close
let's wait
first?
till everybody's gone.
Okay, motion to adjourn?
If you're going to do an attorney-client session
That's-
tonight,
yeah, that's
then
what I
I
was
wouldn't do a
asking.
motion to adjourn.
Attorney-
If you want to do something in between meetings, we could do that too.
Kind of up to you.
So, how's everybody's stamina right now?
Are you good for?
I don't think it's going to take a long time.
Okay.
I really don't.
You wanna do it
Why
tonight?
don't we do it tonight? Yeah,
Let's
once,
go into executive session.
yeah.
What's that?
Make your motion now, and you can get that.
Yeah, they're all going.
Yeah, you could make a motion to go into an attorney-client session right now.
Okay, can I have a motion to go into attorney-client session?
Motion to go into attorney-client session.
Have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, motion passed.
We'll wait for everybody.
Yep.
So we will not be back, right?
Sorry.
David, we will not be back after the session?
You won't be back on July 21st.
I will not be here. At the next meeting, I will not be here. Somebody from my office will be, but...
Do we come back out here?
Oh,
Can we adjourn this?
what you'll need to do is come back on the record, make a motion to come out of attorney-client session, then a motion to adjourn the meeting.